Despite vast development and 5 million people going about their lives, the Greater Melbourne region is home to vital Ramsar wetlands, vast volcanic plains and towering mountain ash forests. And among it all is 8,400 kilometres of life-giving rivers and waterways. These environments are cherished by those who live among them. More than 500 volunteer groups within Greater Melbourne are planting trees, removing weeds and restoring nature. A movement of tens of thousands of passionate community members. These groups plan, rally, discuss and act, each with their own characters and inspirations. Whether they call themselves Landcare groups, friends of, conservation or park committees, or working on private properties or public estates, each group's efforts work to improve land that is dear to them. Along with landcare professionals and willing landholders, these groups take positive environmental actions based on local knowledge, observing change, and adjusting again as new challenges arise. We're going to see 8 stories that show how Landcare and other environmental volunteers impact landscapes and lives from the ground up. Sometimes it pays to dream big. Bass Coast Landcare Network did just that and is now witnessing the transformation of landscapes from bald hills to flowering forests. Since forming in 2003, the network has planted, wait for it, 3 million new trees, or about 10% of the area. They've won over tree changers through to rusted-on farmers as long-term partners and provided meaningful work for young environmentalists. The network hopes to return 30% of its area back to native vegetation by 2050. For longtime General Manager Dave Bateman, planting a tree is a simple act that can impact generations to come. So Dave, can you tell me a little bit about what the Bass Coast Landcare Network does and what are some of your achievements so far?
Well, Bass Coast Landcare is one of the biggest landcare networks in Australia, and we plant heaps of trees is one of our main things. So over the past 15 years, we've planted around 3 million plants in our landscape. If you go into the Bass Coast and have a look around the hills and the areas where we've planted, it's totally transformed the landscape.
Through your projects, you're seeing how Landcare is benefiting the landscapes, but what impact is it having on people?
Well, I reckon it has a significant impact on people because the mental health benefits of getting people out in the natural environment to plant trees, it's really therapeutic. And there's a lot of people that maybe aren't involved in football, netball, any of those sorts of things, and planting trees on a Saturday is one of the things that Bass Coast Landcare does. And the community part of that, getting together, having a barbecue after you've planted 10,000 trees, it's no better feeling. And the legacy that people feel after doing that, you're actually using your energy to do something really good that's going to have a lasting impact.
And planting a tree, which doesn't cost a lot of money, ends up sequestering heaps of carbon and keeps it in the ground. It's just an amazing thing that you can do. And they don't just last for your lifetime, they last longer and they seed themselves, and it just gets better and better as they get older.
What's it like to drive through the Bass Coast region and see projects that have got your fingerprints and the legacy of the entire network on them?
Feels amazing, to be honest, Costa. I feel like I've got a very important job, and just walking through some of the sites that are even like 4 or 5 years old. There's this guy, Carl Russo, that we've planted 120,000 plants at his 100-acre property, and his place was just a barren landscape, and walking through it now, there's koalas coming in, it's just thriving. And the reaction of the landowners and the volunteers involved just makes me stay motivated to keep doing what we're doing and hopefully do more, because we need more trees.
Often, environmental stewardship is secondary to repairing people and communities. But residents in the northern Yara region of Melbourne found ways of doing both. In the wake of the devastating 2009 Black Saturday bushfires, local landholders banded together to rejuvenate community spirit and restore their environment. Rising from the ashes of the fire, the Northern Yara Landcare network was formed to knock down weeds, especially blackberry, which had run amok after the fires, and to support the remnants of unburnt bushland in the area. The sense of collective problem solving continues as new approaches are tested, from community weed trailers, using grazing goats, to deer exclusion fences. The network's facilitator, Rob Fallon, understands better than anyone the need for Landcare to adapt to maintain positive momentum.
When we formed the network after the '09 fires, we were all about problem solving. People were very practically minded, and it didn't really matter who you were. You could have been a cattle farmer, a grazier of some description, a winemaker, or a bush block owner. Weeds, particularly blackberry, were enemy number one. I've got on my books about 300 landowners that I've talked to, and about 200 of them we've actually been able to physically assist with on-ground control. The key to that program has been that it's all about cooperation, that we overcome many of the obstacles to landowners doing it just for themselves, because they realise if neighbours are also doing it, then we're solving a problem collectively. And we just put our heads down and worked on ideas. It was just conversation. And before you know it, we've got the goat guy coming in, and we've got the Victorian Blackberry Task Force coming in, and they gravitate towards that positive energy. And I think it's really important to talk about things positively. And if it also includes community, then you're actually providing that community long term with not just the tools for weed control, but a whole way of looking at problems when it comes to biodiversity and the threats to biodiversity. I don't think a statue is too much to ask for in the heart of Yarra Glen. No, I don't even think about legacy. I think about equipping people younger than me with the enthusiasm, knowledge and skills to carry on.
Landcare's reach can extend beyond local landholders. Intrepid Landcare members, often young, renting, studying and balancing multiple jobs, enthusiastically volunteer wherever and whenever they can. Over the last 10 years, Intrepid Landcare groups have been forming around the country, complementing established Landcare groups and networks. Mornington Peninsula Intrepid Landcare is the latest group to pop up in the Melbourne region. Its members keen to become the next stewards of the peninsula's beautiful coasts and forests. Founder Amy Henson says young people are looking for ways to help nature and combat climate change, and Intrepid provides that opportunity. She also sees it as a platform to listen to and learn from the knowledge holders among the existing Landcare community.
Like most people who studied environmental science or had an interest in environmental science, got involved in volunteering, and a lot of the time the volunteering groups, the age is getting older, and the demographic and maybe the way that those Landcare groups run is maybe not as relevant for younger people these days who are renting and a bit more transient in where they're living. So with our Intrepid group, it's a roving group that works around the peninsula, and its focus is environmental education and also things like weeding and things that help the environment, but also giving the people who are involved a fun experience with like-minded people and just getting people outside and connected to country. So yeah, just providing a space for people to do that. Starting this group was a way that I could keep up my plant knowledge, keep up giving back to the environment and to the community, and yeah, meet like-minded people and yeah, sort of try be a leader in that space and yeah, try bring other people along with me. And Intrepid Landcare is all about bridging that gap between young up-and-coming conservationists with people who've been in landcare for many years and have lots of knowledge that they can pass on. So it's almost like, yeah, passing the baton to the next group of conservationists.
Planting trees is an integral part of restoring the environment. But no tree planting can occur without someone to raise the seedlings. Tree Project has been activating thousands of suburban environmentalists for more than 30 years by giving volunteers seed, soil and planter boxes to grow native vegetation. From humble beginnings, Tree Project is now a production line of goodwill and community spirit. After months of nurturing in urban backyards, the seedlings are transported to the countryside where they find their forever homes in restoration projects across the state. Manager Susi Milton has seen the amazing transformation that takes place in people and landscapes through Tree Project's programs when the city can help the country. So, how did the Tree Project begin?
Tree Project began 33 years ago when two women, Dr Maggie McLeod and Belinda Goss, stood up in a forum and said, I want to change our environment. I want to grow 1 million trees. And, you know, really the model hasn't changed much. People growing the seedlings in their backyards for regional areas, for farms, for shelter belts, wildlife corridors. And it hasn't changed, it's just grown substantially.
Can you pinpoint what's been the secret to the longevity?
Yeah, Costa. We've got some growers that have been growing for more than 27 years. Every year, so they've grown 10,000 plus plants for Tree Project. And so some of their children are starting to grow as well because they've seen their parents watering the trees, you know, transplanting seedlings, and now they're doing it. So that's really lovely. So it's just this beautiful community program where people living in the city can grow the seedlings that are going to live out in regional Victoria.
So you're really nurturing a transfer of skills and then the connection between the grower and the project where it's going to end up. So it's all about connection.
Yeah, it's all about connection. It is. So the people get a connection with the plants, people get a connection with the country, and it's just a beautiful program. Tree Project's here to stay and we can't wait to see what next year brings.
Nurseries across the country underpin the ambitions of Landcare. They diligently propagate and take care of the seedlings needed for revegetation. But nurseries in themselves are reliant on another group, the seed collectors. A careful, watchful vocation. The collectors comb the forest for the seed stock essential to each Landcare project. This unheralded process is embodied by groups like the Ngana seed collectors, affectionately known as the Seedies, a determined group of women who hold a wealth of knowledge about the hidden art of native seed collecting. Julie Thompson finds a sense of calm and mindfulness, moving slowly through nature, searching for seeds. She and the other Seedies also get satisfaction knowing that their work is supporting conservation throughout the Dandenong Ranges and creating habitat for two of Victoria's faunal emblems, the lowland leadbeater's possum and the helmeted honeyeater.
With seed collecting, we are very flexible, and if the weather is inclement, then we may head straight to coffee and cake rather than wait till after seed collecting. So we do enjoy that communal sharing, and often what we'll do is when we first meet, we'll have a show and tell, see who's collected what, and get excited and cheer each other on when we've found a bit of polyscias or a bit of, I don't know, lamandra somewhere, and we go, good job, that's great, you've done a great job. It's all about encouraging, supporting, and having a fabulous time. It's interesting with the knowledge transfer within the group. Not one person can hold all the knowledge, or no one person can hold all the knowledge anyway, but we can share the load of that. So someone will remember the first part of a plant's name, and then somebody else will prompt you for the other half. So together as a group, you'll have a collective memory. And that's very important because it makes the journey of seed collecting and learning much easier. So much in life these days, we relearn the same lessons. Everybody starts their job or their new thing, not taking into consideration all the work and the energy that's gone before. And that can save you a huge amount of time and leap you forward. My kids, they know that Mum goes out and does her seed collecting things, and they're really proud of that. And they know that I'm helping to save what I can of the planet for them and their children.
Not every environmental group is formed by those with years of experience in the sector. Despite having no knowledge of natural resource management, Alex Paporakis felt compelled to act after the desolation of the Black Summer fires. He set upon the idea to plant 1 million trees in his surrounding landscape and to develop a strategy to get others to help him. Alex wanted people in the city to hear and feel the wonder of nature on their doorstep. So the Urban Bushland Initiative was born. Through novel use of social media, as well as good old-fashioned door knocking, Alex and his peers have been able to engage people from across the community to revegetate suburban spaces. Now, you've spent a little bit of time in this place, haven't you?
Yeah, this is a site that we revegetated in 2022. We chucked 3,000 plants in with about 155 volunteers. And the site is doing fantastic. You can see the size of the trees as they're coming up through. And it's looking phenomenal, honestly, yeah.
So many environmental days and volunteer groups have trouble engaging youth, but your planting days are overflowing with them. What's your secret?
We target that younger age group specifically, and I think a big part of it is good coffee. Everyone loves good coffee, free food, everyone loves some food. Another big thing is we advertise on social media as much as we can, and we use short videos, very exciting, very positive messaging, because people are getting sick of all the negative messaging, and if we target that positive, the responses are fantastic.
It's really easy these days to feel overwhelmed by the state of the environment and to feel like, well, that's out of my lane to get involved and do something. But you stepped in and didn't have experience. What would you say to people who are in your shoes and want to commit to something but don't know where to begin?
Just do it, really. I know that what we're doing here isn't going to fix all the crises in the world, but it does make a difference in our area, and it makes a difference in our lives. And the space for conservation is so full of people that are so positive and so ready for change that they'll help you along the way. So as long as you come in willing to give it your best shot, I think you will make a bigger difference than you could imagine.
Sometimes there's more to urban conservation than planting trees. It can be just as important for residents to recognise and conserve the remnant nature that's around them. To the untrained eye, grasslands may appear bare and featureless, but if you take the time and look closely, the Victorian volcanic plains are a hive of activity and contain some of Australia's most endangered and elusive bugs, reptiles and plants. The Friends of Iramu are a group of volunteers who go the extra mile to protect the diminishing grasslands of St Albans and Canley in Melbourne's western suburbs, where car parks and industrial estates usually take priority. Ecologist Megan O'Shea understands how easily grasslands are underappreciated, having once believed the plains she saw on her way to school was simply deforested farmland. Now she and her fellow volunteers are opening people's eyes to the wonders of these critically endangered environments and championing their protection.
The Friends of Iramu are really significant in helping to restore the grasslands, so lots of weekends of planting in the rain. We sometimes have after work planting events. And they're also a bit of an interface with the local community, so trying to engage with our neighbours and people living locally and help them to understand what this is all about. I had always had, like lots of young kids, an interest in animals, and as I got older, sort of started thinking a bit more broadly, and I went to uni and studied ecology, and at some point in that process of studying ecology came to understand that, this landscape that I grew up in was grassland. It actually didn't have trees, so no one had actually cut those trees down. It just didn't have those trees there. And I guess that helped to build that connection of understanding what it was like around the place where I grew up. We've got some really dedicated people that just keep going and just keep making it work, make sure that we've got capacity to come out here. So it's a can-do attitude that really makes it work. And a belief that if we keep going, there will always be people that come and help. But the challenge is the succession, making sure that there's always people to continue making sure that the burning happens, that the weeds are being managed if they need to be managed, to keep building that diversity. We've got lots of plants here now that weren't here 20 years ago, and so I guess my hope is that we keep building on that to provide that haven. I think our long-term perspective is that we would love to actually restore Iramu so that it's in really good condition and be able to hand that back to the Wurundjeri people. That would be a really great outcome.
Long before any Friends of or Landcare groups were formed, First Nations people were caring for this land. For many Aboriginal people though, settlement and colonisation disrupted access to country. In 2023, the Noulei Ranger program was created to bring Aboriginal youth back onto country and to introduce traditional and new science to their school curriculum. On Wurundjeri Woiwurrung country in the northeast of Melbourne, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous kids hear from elders and learn about cultural fire, totems and ways to look after country. For the program's creator, Sharna Brown, the learnings are simple. If you care for the land, it cares for you. Sharna, who are the Noulei Rangers and where did the idea for them come about?
The Noulei Rangers are a First Nations group of children to adults. They range from primary school kids to high school all the way to community. And the idea came about last year when I was wanting to pilot a program connecting kids to country and connecting community to country.
So the children are learning to care for country from an early age. How important is this?
It's vital. A lot of the children these days, we say that we're so connected, but we're more disconnected than ever. So having them come out and have opportunities where they can be on country, places where their mothers might have planted some trees, they can also contribute. It's really important for their spirit. A lot of our kids are, in foster care, they have the disconnection from culture and country. So them coming out at an early age kind of plants the seeds in them.
How inclusive is your project?
We have First Nations kids and non-Indigenous kids, and for us it's really important to share culture. We've always shared culture. With children, they're pure, so they want to learn from a pure lens. Hopefully this program will help create more children and people that want to care for country, and they can take this with them for the rest of their lives.
When you boil it all down, we need people on country. You can't care for country unless you're on country.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why our elders have told us since we were little that is the real classroom. We need to be on country to care for it and tread gently, even if we're not in our own country, treading gently on other people's country, and tread there with love and care.
Caring for the land comes in many different forms, and there's no one-size-fits-all approach. But whether it's revegetating vast tracts of deforested land, planting out smaller urban spaces, propagating native wildflowers, getting rid of weeds, or collecting seeds, we've seen that people all across the Greater Melbourne region share a common sense of stewardship for the natural world. Through concerted and responsive action, environmental groups, government agencies and committed individuals are all contributing to making our local environments healthier and more resilient. And it all starts with a simple idea, a conversation or a seedling, and grows from the ground up.